What's up everyone, Saintsfan back again with another GTA 5 video, and today, since the Vagner came out, I wanted to do a speed test on it to show you guys, how it performs against some of the other supercars, if it's good, if it's not. But what I also wanted to do was make a video on the new list of the fastest supercars, because if you were unaware, what actually happened with the gun running update, Rockstar changed a pretty major stat that some of the cars in the game have, which made them fast. For example, the RE7B, that car was at one point the fastest car in the game. It was one of the fastest cars in terms of racing, in terms of lap racing, in terms of, top speed, acceleration, all that stuff, right? And what ended up happening, or what happened in the gun running update, they completely nerfed it. They took away like all of its speed. So now it's not very good. And you may have noticed this if you've been using the RE7B, whether it's in races or even in free roam, because some of the stuff translates into free roam a bit, and I'll touch on that in a second. But I just wanted to give you guys the heads up. I wanted to give you guys an updated list on the fastest new supercars in case you maybe wanted to do some racing and you notice that the RE7B isn't good. So which car should you use? So hopefully at the end of this video, you will have that question answered. Now what we're going to do is actually start with the Vagner, and all this information or the lap times are coming from Ruffy. I'll leave his link in the description. So the Vagner, in case you were wondering, now I did make somewhat of a speed test video a few weeks ago when people could mod them into online. It's really good. I told you guys in that video that, and this was just from testing it on an airport, it kept up with some of the fastest cars in the game, like the X80, the 811, the T20. And come to find out, the Vagner is actually the second best supercar for lap racing. So while it may not look as good and it may not have as much customization as, say, the X821, you're still going to want to own this car if you plan on racing, or if you just want one of the fastest supercars in the game. The last thing I do want to mention about the Vagner, and you may see this in some of the clips, it can double clutch, and it goes so freaking fast if you do that. Basically, double clutching, once you get into like the second or third gear, like halfway through, if you take your hand off the gas, hit the handbrake for a second, and then go back to the gas, you will hear your car sort of revving. And for whatever reason, that makes some of these cars go super fast. And this one is no exception, man. This thing you can see in some of these clips. I'll try and find the one where I noticed it the most. It was far back, and then it was almost like, in the Fast and Furious movies where they hit the NOS button and the car just shoots off. So if you are someone who knows how to double clutch, if you like that mechanic, if you can master it, then that is going to be super helpful with this car. Like, in addition to the fact that it's so good, you have that. So I mean, it's a really, really great car in terms of performance. Now get into the second part, the new supercar list and all that. The statistic, or the stat that was actually changed, was called downforce. And I'm not entirely sure how downforce works, because as many of you guys know, I'm just like a casual GTA racer. I don't dive too deep into all that stuff. That's why when I do my performance tests and speed tests, I do them in a free roam lobby, and I'm just testing the acceleration and the top speed, because I don't race that often. And I feel like, as a casual player, that's what you really want to know. You want to know how it handles in a free roam environment, how the top speed and, acceleration handle. Going back to downforce though, from what I gather, a few of the cars in the game, the RE7B was one of them, that had a really good downforce rating, or a really good downforce modifier, and that actually made it go faster. And I guess what Rockstar did was they decreased that modifier, they took it away or something, they made it lower, and that made the car slower. And the cars that actually had this downforce modifier, and the cars that are a lot slower now, are the RE7B, the ETR1, the Itali GTB Custom, the GP1, the Tyrus. I think the Spectre Custom is one of the only sports cars, and I think there's like another car in some other class, but I'm not going to talk on that because that's another class, and it was like the van class. I don't know, it was like a class you're never going to use, so it's not really relevant. The ones we're going to be taking a look at are the supercars. So, like I said, the RE7B, the ETR1, Itali GTB, the Tyrus, or the Itali GTB Custom, the Tyrus, and the GP1. All of these cars are way slower now. And what you're seeing, this is just some tests in free roam that I did. with the RE7B, and I'm in the new car, the Vagner. We have some other cars like the Tempesta's in there, the Zentorno, the 811. The RE7B is absolutely horrible. Now, it's so bad in terms of acceleration and even like top speed and all that stuff. It doesn't really catch these other cars in the game. And honestly, I would almost say if you have one, just sell it, because it's kind of ruined. I mean, maybe Rockstar go back and change something, but this looks to be, or this was intentional. Like, this downforce modifier was intentional, so it's not like this is a glitch and they're going to change it. But the RE7B is not very good. Now, what I'll go ahead and put on the screen is a chart of the top supercars and their lap times. This is made, as you can see, by 4T Piano 96 Reddit user. So what we're taking a look at here, these are all the lap times from Bruffy. The Tempesta is actually number 1. Now, quickly, I do want to say, if you're like me, or if you're more like me and you're just like a casual racer, these numbers don't 100% like guarantee you're going to win. These are obviously for like super hardcore racers that race on or in serious style racing and not stunt races and those and like the crazier, goofier races with a bunch of ramps and all that. So if you are someone who does stunt races a lot or does the races that are, you know, just on highways or something, this might not mean as much. And I'll go on that after I go through this list. I'll touch a little bit on that. But get into the list. The Tempesta, you can see, comes in at 1 minute 0.8. And then right below it, the Vagner is 1.89. So the Vagner is so close to the Tempesta in terms of lap time. And honestly, that, what, 0.10 of a difference, it's not even going to matter that much. So basically, for all intents and purposes, the Vagner and the Tempesta are the two best vehicles in terms of lap times. Now, continuing down the list, you can see here the Zentorno, surprisingly, is actually number 3. Then we have the Nero Custom, which is a little bit slower than the Zentorno, not by much. Then we have the X80 Proto, the T20, the Osiris, the Nero, the FMJ, and the Itali GTB to wrap up the top 10. Now, continuing down the list, we have the RE7B, and you can see the old lap time was 1.6, which was actually the highest. But with the new patch, it dropped by pretty much 2 seconds, which does put it slower than a lot of the other cars. Some of the other ones behind it, you have the Turismo there. I mean, you can really see this list. If you really want to check every single one of them, you can just pause the video and then look at it. But you can see the ETR1 fell quite a bit. It's now 17. The Tyrus and the Itali GTB Custom are 20 and 21. The GP1 is 24. So a lot of those cars did end up dropping because they got a lot slower. So just going off of this list, you know, if you want one of the best cars, or if you want a list of the best cars for regular racing, now that's what I'm going to call it, where you're on the ground and it's like a somewhat of a competitive style race, then go with, yeah, the Tempesta, the Vagner, even the Zentorno, or if you want a newer car, the Nero Custom or the X80. Those are still, and even the T20 is still up there, you know, in terms of the best ones. But cars like the RE7B, you know, the 811, I know that didn't get affected, but that one was way down there on the list at 22. The ETR1, another one that was up there, you know, those don't really use them anymore. Now, getting back to the stunt part, the stunt race part, this is where this list kind of doesn't matter too much, because stunt races and a lot of the races that, if you're just going in a straight line, the handling or the traction is what they call it, doesn't matter that much. And that just determines how fast you can go around a corner, like around a turn. But in stunt races and, you know, ones that you're going in a straight line, that doesn't really matter that much. So in terms of stunt races, while the 811 may be 22 in regular racing, in stunt races, the 811 is, you know, pretty damn good because it's got a crazy good top speed and acceleration. The X80, that's another one that's really good in stunt races. I mean, you might be able to get away with the Tempesta in a stunt race, but it's not going to be as good because its top speed isn't, you know, as good as the two I just mentioned. Really, if you're a casual sort of player, the only thing this downforce like change really affects is when you purchase these supercars, you're going to want to purchase a spoiler. For whatever reason, purchasing a spoiler or putting a spoiler on some of these supercars, it makes them faster. So like the RE7B, one thing I didn't mention at the beginning, in the gameplay, the guy who's using the RE7B, he has the stock spoiler. where if you put a custom spoiler on it, like the carbon fiber spoiler on the RE7B, it goes a little bit faster, and that's what the times in that chart are based off of. It's not based off of the stock spoilers, so, or like the non-spoiler version. So just if you want to be safe, if you don't know, if you don't want to have to look up every single car if you should have a spoiler on it or not, when you get a new supercar, just put a spoiler on it, and that will make it go as fast as it could possibly go. But I mean, really what it comes down to, I know people always look at these numbers and these lists and they're like, oh, that's the best one, this is the best one, that's the one I should use. But really it comes down to which one you like, which one you can handle. And I mean, racing in GTA is not all about numbers. There's a lot of other things that go into it. You got lag, you got people hitting you if you're not playing in a passive mode race. If you're playing in a regular casual style race, you got the slipstream that you know, helps. So there's a lot of other factors that go into racing, and I appreciate all this information, and it's definitely good to know. Like, that's for sure. But I would say don't strictly go off of this stuff. You know, do your own tests if you want. Go into your own races, use some of these cars, and then see which one you like. But hopefully this video helped you guys out. Hopefully this gave you some information that you didn't know, because Rockstar changed this stuff and they did not mention it. They didn't mention it in the news or in the patch notes. They just sort of did it and left it and hoped we figured it out. But that is it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Do you like the Vagner now that you know that it's basically the fastest, or one of the fastest supercars in the game? And I want to know, did you actually pick one up? Because it's relatively cheap for that performance. That is it though. Thank you all, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.